Hey there, Blade fans. OG Blade Reviews back with you once again. Formerly This Old Sword, because some of you are still getting confused, and I apologize for that. But I have left this name and this logo in the past. It was good at the time, and we're moving forward. What can I say? A little more modern, perhaps. So glad I'm back with you, and you're looking at something very interesting in the field of view here on the table. I am not a big historically Spyderco fan. I've got about a half a dozen or so Spydercos, but I'm not really a Spyderco fanboy. That doesn't mean I don't like them. But what do we have in the pouch here that actually is not made by Spyderco? That's what we've got today, a flash batch knife, which I had to learn what it was. It's a collaboration between Spyderco and Lionsteel. And you can see I got a little bit of oil in it. Haven't bothered cleaning it off. It was just from a day of handling it with a little oil on my hands. So what you have usually is a little lighter micarta there. So it's a green micarta is what they're calling it. And this is supposed to be a collectible. So I guess I should clean that off if it's to be a collectible and not a user. Spymyto. Spymyto. There was a knife a while back called the Spy Opera that was put out by Spyderco, and I understand it was a bit smaller. I'm not too familiar with it. They did something interesting with this knife from, there's your Lionsteel logo or name. And you can see it is made in Maniaggio, Italy. And it is partly the design effort of a fellow by the name of Molita. Forget his Italian name, but you'll tell me. There's a Spyderco emblem. They made this knife. See if I can find out where they put that. They made this knife. I may not be able to find it. We'll try to find it later rather than to scope around. Here it is. Okay. Right next to that Spyderco name is that it is in M398, not M390. No, I'm not mispronouncing it, not misstating it, but a little bit of info on the knife here if you want to freeze frame that. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So it is construction and materials produced by Lionsteel exclusively for Spyderco, and the Spymyto faithfully retains the key features of the Myto that was perhaps is a Lionsteel knife, while adding an enhanced blade steel and some signature elements of Spyderco style. It is hollow ground drop point blade crafted in M398, an improved version of Böhler Uddeholm's M390 particle metallurgy stainless steel. M398 boasts significant increases in its carbon and vanadium content. I'm not going to read a whole lot more, but there's quite a bit on that freeze frame that I gave you. There's some interesting features to the knife. It is a Lionsteel knife, but yes, there is the signature Spidey hole, and it's on bearings, but a little bit stiff. We've got a flipper tab. Talk about that in a second. Opens quite well with the flipper tab. It is a frame lock folder with the hardened steel insert. It is a deep carry pocket clip, fully deep carry. And we've got no glass breaker on the end. We do have a Torx, which you can loosen and flip the pocket clip around to the other side for left-hand carry. So it's a fully ambidextrous knife, particularly because of the opening hole and also the flipper tab. Now, interesting thing, as I was saying about the flipper tab, is that there is a T6 where you can remove the flipper tab. So picture that just being gone. Yes. And therefore, when it's open, there is no, so to speak, guard. So that is completely gone. So if you want to use only the Spidey hole, you can do that. I found in taking it off that I had a little more forward reach with my hand. Handle felt a little bit longer and was fairly comfortable. And even in the pocket, this fairly muted flipper tab, so it doesn't really get in the way. So in the pocket, you don't have that flipper tab sticking out if that bothers you. T8 on the pivot. You can middle finger flick it, although you need a little extra acceleration because it is a bit on the tight side. I would imagine you can play with that a little bit and loosen it up if you'd like. We're going to measure it up. I could probably pull the measurements off the sheet, but let's just do our usual OG Blades measurements. 7 7/8 is the, 7 3/4 is the overall length, and pretty much 3 1/4, maybe a skosh more, call it 3.3 on the blade length, with a cutting edge of about the same. Keep slipping off here. Doesn't want to stay on there. Call that a 3.3-inch edge as well. As far as the other dimensions go, fairly slim, 0.48 across the handle, and a pretty thick blade stock, 0.15 in millimeters. That is 3.9, almost a 4 millimeter blade stock. They may call it a 4 millimeter blade stock. I don't know. Weighing it up. .5 ounces, 3.5 ounces. It's fairly light. And that is because we have a fully micarta handle slab on the left, on the show side. There is a suspended G10, they say, backspacer. That is a useful backspacer, so it's spanned in here. You can see straight through, right? And goes all the way to the pommel down to about there. So kind of classy, kind of classy. They do mention that the detailing here on the chamfer of the titanium side of the handle, and yes, that's titanium, is matched on the micarta side, both here and up here. Same exact detail work. And again, probably a little Windex would clean that up so that it's not so dark. Or, if it's a user for you, you may prefer that micarta turns dark. I have a hard time keeping micarta dark. I've got some Bastinelli knives with micarta, both green and black. And, I try to darken them down, sometimes even use a little oil and whatnot, and they don't stay that way. So, yeah, there are some leather things you use on leather to keep them soft and so forth that some people have recommended that will keep it permanently dark. Those didn't even do it for me. So I'm not too worried about it. If I were to sell this knife up the line in the future, I'd clean that up and bring it back to probably a little bit of maybe acetone. Maybe that's too harsh. I don't know. Something would clean that up and get the oil out. And I'm sure some people will suggest it to me. So it is nice in the hand, leaves about 3/4 of an inch left over from my medium large hand. I can get my thumb up over the hump here or put it behind. There is no jimping, but a very nice feature that Lionsteel uses and many Italian knife makers or manufacturers use on their knives is this beautiful crowned spine. You can see that it's rounded all the way out to the point, and it is beautifully done. And we've got plenty of meat out at the point. It isn't overly fine. I noticed in doing some cutting tests with this ahead of the review that the edge was okay. Yeah, it's working a little better now. Yeah, it's pretty fine. And I did measure it up to be, and maybe I'll put this in the specs when I put them up on the screen. I did measure it to be 20 thousandths right behind the edge. So, you know, not 15 thousandths, but 20 thousandths I think is acceptable. They say hollow ground, and yes, it is a fairly shallow hollow ground. If they didn't tell me that, I would say it was flat ground, but no, it is hollow ground. I don't know how we can show that on camera, but take my word for it, it's hollow ground. Not deeply hollow ground, but it's hollow ground, and that gives you a little finer edge than you would normally get on about a 4mm blade stock. What other little details do we have here? Well, got a nice relief in here, opened up for getting your thumb into the lock bar, but it's a pretty good tension. We have the same thing here, if you can see it, that they relieved that in, cut it in a little bit to make kind of a well there. That's what the Todd brothers like to call a landing platform, which means if you use the flipper tab, that your finger hits that kind of a hollow in there at the very end of the stroke. Comfortable knife. I'm not sure it's going to be a daily carry for me. I got it more or less as a novelty and a kind of an investment, but let's do a compare to something bigger from Spyderco, the Amalgam. This has been a popular knife for those that like a larger Spyderco. An interesting one. A lot of features on this. Got the compression lock. And how about Jimbo 2? This one has the some custom grips on it from Alan, and I can't think of his last name, Putnam. Alan Putnam picked that up from White Mountain Knives. By the way, this one comes directly from NC Blade in North Carolina. A lot of other folks were out. This was getting to be a hot item. I was able to find it there. And let's see if we can fit one more knife in here that is not Spyderco, but is a great example of the work that Lionsteel does. And this one is, again, a Molita design. And I'm going to get you the name of this in a moment. You may already be shouting it out to me. One moment. It is the TM1, and it is in Sleipner steel. Probably the smoothest backlock I have ever seen. It is just so silky smooth. You have to feel it to believe it. And they've got that really, really beautiful, I think it's G10. I don't think it's Micarta. Yeah, it's kind of a sculpted G10, but oh boy, is that smooth. And when you release this backlock, you just can't believe how easy that releases. But it is definitely solid in the lockup. So that's the TM1 from Lionsteel, some of the work that they do. If you don't have Lionsteel knives, you should definitely check one out. Amalgam. Amalgam's a bigger blade, for sure. Yep. And one more compare because it's in the pocket. There is the Microtech MSI in injection molded handle, and that is considerably bigger. As you can see, that is the ram lock. It's working out well for me in the daily carry rotation. I'm seeing more rotation than most. Well, I think that's about what I could tell you about the Spymyto, the collaboration between Lionsteel and Spyderco, branded by both Spyderco and Lionsteel. and might be something you want to grab. And they've only made 2,000 of these, by the way. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't show you, is that on the inside here, if I can get the flashlight out of my pocket next to the knife. There we go. You can see that this is number 1739 of 2000. So, yep, in this flash batch, they're only making 2,000, and then that's it. They're not going to make this exact knife again, so I am told. Well, let me know what you think. Don't forget to give this video a like, and I'll be back with you soon. OG Blade here. Take care.